to the next speaker. We have Mr. Gupta from Robert Bosch Engineering, Chief Consultant, Food and Agribusiness. Over to you, sir.
Hi, am I audible, Ravi?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Thank you. Could you give me the sharing access, please? By the time I get this access, I'll quickly like to introduce myself to this forum because this could be my first time I'm in CII. So I work for Robert Bosch and I have roughly about 12 years of experience in agribusiness and innovation. I was the market strategy and the marketing guy for SkyMed Weather Services, if you would know, the weather forecasting company. And for about 5 years now, I've been working with Robert Bosch in terms of developing the agriculture portfolio, as well as I lead the market strategy for innovation and incubation topics here. With that, just to give you my background, I come from a mechanical engineering background, as well as I also got an opportunity to study abroad and work into various different organizations like Mitsubishi Elevators and other PepsiCo companies. I'm also very instrumental in developing the strategy for the Bihar Agri-Tech, working with PwC, and currently now with the portfolio of working with, is my screen visible? I just want to check that. Yes. Just please confirm once you're able to look at my screen.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Superb. Thank you. So, the really interesting opening remarks, Ravi, over there, where, how the life of the consumers or the consumers are changing altogether. Looking at millennials and then further looking at the new millennials, Generation Z and the Alpha coming in now. The new consumers are much more cautious about what they're consuming. Like it was mentioned that the protein intake and the consciousness about the protein intake that the consumers are taking in their regular diet is also becoming a really critical option choice once you're picking up a food. And the developing countries and the developed countries both are really becoming conscious on that aspect. To address that new consumer and this changing need, there are certain things that are changing the market dynamics altogether. So, for example, if you look at the food and food retail processing and FMCG all together combined in a complete value chain, we see that consumers' demand for food freshness, safety, and transparency is sort of taking the mainstream. Any kind of a situation where a food poisoning would happen earlier, the brands would just go under the hood and it would be just in newspapers couple of times. But now that it tends to get really viral over social media that a particular person fell sick because of a particular brand or he chose the product from a particular retail store. Further up, especially coming from developed countries, the food tightening laws are getting very tightly spun together around these food processing as well as the food manufacturers, even retailers. And now, like it would mention about the a lot of startups coming into the arena where we see in the European market a lot of local source food is being given preference. For example, that trend is yet to emerge in India when it comes to our mangoes, when it comes to our other stuff, where we are having a Malihabadi mango or having a Langra arm coming from Varanasi side is to be given a premium over what we eating Alfonso or what other premium quality mangoes are out there. So that segregation and highlighting the origin is still yet to come, and a lot of startups are taking advantage of that in terms of highlighting the source and the origin of the product where it is coming from, in terms to address the consumer's need. Especially, look, I was just googling over, what just to organic food, since everyone is really cautious about, getting their immunity high in this COVID times, and this is just a snapshot from Google. Wherein, if I just go ahead and Google for organic food, there is a plenty and plethora of food options out there which say that they are all organic. And you can look at fantastic branding, you can look at all the good brand names, and you can look at a lot of new brands coming out there which say that our product is truly organic. or they would say that the products that are being manufactured are chemical free, or they would say that my product has been sustainability sourced. The point to be noted over here is the emergence of all the products or most of the products on the retail stores or on the shelves, showing that the products are bio or organic or sustainably sourced, creates a confusion into the altogether. The drastic shift, especially I'm coming from the European region where I personally work in the retail in Europe. So most of the examples that I'm going to be showing you is going to be coming from that region. We see that all the products all of a sudden had become bio. Bio is sort of a nomenclature for that. They give an organic, and that is the causing concern around the consumers that within a time span of 2 to 3 years, how does the majority of the products that are sitting on the shelf become organic altogether? Further up, this creates a lot of confusion, and then the brands trying to compete in a range where you would have in organic India providing you Giloy capsules to Patanjali providing you Giloy and Ashwagandha capsules, and both claiming to be organic. And there are numerous other players who would just put a label of organic onto the onto their products and then try to charge a premium to their end customers. In order to address this particular situation, the technology has, as of now, as it was mentioned, that traceability of where the products are originating from, how they have traveled, how fresh they are, is actually taken a mainstream when it comes to the end consumers consuming the product. Also, once you look at the scenario where the food recall for the food poisoning kind of a scenarios that are emerging in the supply chain, the majority of the losses that the organizations take is happening because of these food recalls. So this new established traceability demand is able to address the food safety, security, as well as the traceability requirements, and in the end highlight about the provenance of the products. This happened last year, and I thought, it will be interesting idea to bring this up over here. So this is an organization called Innova Market Insights, and they claim that they have the food database of every product that had hit the retail shelf stores for about 50 years. Every food data that has come to any of the retail stores across Europe, they have that data. And this is what for 2019 they said that commitment to sustainability is one of the trends. The story about the products, because of the demand from millennials and Generation Z, is demanding that you tell me the story of the product where it is coming from. And then, the power of local, how good the product is making you feel, and then the consumer engagement. And further, very interestingly, blockchain technology was there. Since I've been personally working on blockchain, IoT, and AI technology for past 4 years now, in terms of developing this complete traceability platform called True Food Plus, and which is being currently being used in Europe and US, and we will see a glimpse of how we are able to establish this traceability to address this new consumer demands that they are asking for, and how technology is able to deliver to those demands by bringing the trust and transparency into the supply chain. As I was talking about, blockchain is a technology which has sort of created a huge impact and has an immense potential in terms of creating a trust into the system. So the governance models inside the blockchain ecosystem itself, the trust is itself written inside the codes of the blockchain. So for example, like I was determining that the if I'm when Indian situation improves as well, that is there a possibility to create a product differentiation and create a complete traceability of an Alfonso mango to what a Langra coming from Varanasi side, and then try to charge a premium on the basis of the sustainable or the ethical practices that is being utilized by the organization that is providing the mangoes to the end customer, and then further up maybe try to charge a premium on top of it, and then establishing a trust and a proof, highlighting it to the end customers that yes, it is truly that Alfonso mango that you are consuming. So as I was mentioning that the industry is not just looking towards it, the industry is already moving towards it. So the developed nations, we see there is a huge traction into highlighting the provenance of all the fresh product that is out there into the market. So on a simple scan of a QR code, you are able to look at where did that particular product originate from. So from a particular farm, this was a particular farmer who produced it, and the particular banana that you see in this case of the example was harvested on this particular day. And that kind of traceability and transparency in terms of showing that the particular farmer who had planted and grown and harvested this particular banana had sourced all the organic feed, all the fertilizer from a certified supplier. And that kind of a traceability and authentication of the documentation actually gives you a very, very granular view of where the product is coming from, and actually builds trust for the end customers. Not just the latest trend which is coming up, and people are trying to choose the brands which are much more sustainable. So to give you an example, if you would have recently seen the television in the past 6 months, you would have seen Hindustan Unilever putting up an advertisement where in a village they had put a shower booth, and all the farmers started coming in and they started drinking water and everything, and then they said that uh, all the complete village had the water and drank the water, enjoyed the water. And similarly in a city, one person could not were not able to complete all his just was bathing with all that water. So the kind of a communication that these brands are doing into the market in terms of saying that Unilever is a brand which is committed to sustainability and we are able to reduce water throughout our value chain and make it lower is actually taking a mainstream, where your commitment towards the sustainability and communication of it to the end customers is actually going to be the major differentiator, where the people would like to pay you per se a premium for your brand as compared to Ricket Bensinger or any other organization. So sustainability communication, and then the one point is communication and doing just marketing and telling stories about your product. Second thing is the communication with integrity. How do you establish an integrity of your marketing efforts and your sustainability to the end customers? That is where the technologies like blockchain, AI, and IoT come in. And I'm going to show you one of the examples that we have successfully delivered in Norway. This is what actually we are doing in Norway. And if you Google for a company called Tine, and you search for Bosch blockchain, you'll find a lot of stories around this particular dairy cooperative, which is the largest dairy cooperative based out of Nordics, as well as this dairy cooperative owns the manufacturing processing. They do their own branding, and then some of the retail stores they already have. And I was sitting in the with in one of the meetings, and the discussion was happening about how to take the project further. And one of the board member calls in, and he says that looking at your presentation, this is exactly what the need of the hour is, where I am able to gain more transparency and break the silos of the silos of different works that are happening throughout my value chain. So first is my growing the fodder for my animal. Then is the farmers taking care of the animal. Then it is the processing. Then it's the transport. And I need to have a complete visibility throughout the value chain in order to take real time quick decisions, as well as being able to highlight the quality and the transparency to my end customer. So to get a probably a premium. So what's happening in Norway is basically they get 3 months of sunshine, and in that period they have to grow all the grass for the animal. If they're not able to do that, or they're not able to estimate it perfectly, they have to import the fodder for the animals, and which is a huge cost. So most of the animals are sent for culling and for the feeding purposes if they're not able to import the food, because the cost of production of the milk is going to become too high and just going to become unsustainable. So, giving you an example of how we're able to leverage AI in such a situation is we have a product called Swenta, in which a farmer turns all the mobile application, sits on a tractor, and just by listening to the audio of the tractor as well as what farm implement is being used, the dairy cooperative is able to know that a particular farmer has has done a seeding or plowing in this much particular area of a land for X number of hours, and combine that to 9,000 farmers in the region. they're able to very specifically drill down into saying that X hectare of land has been plowed, so my productivity of the crop should be this much. And if you look at the timing of all the farming activities that is being done with the weather parameters and the variables with very high accuracy, even before the harvesting is being done, the dairy cooperatives is able to know that I should expect X tons of fodder to be coming into that season. So that is a sort of creating a resilience for their own organization when it comes to the farming operations. And that is one unique example of AI that is.
Sorry, Mr. Gupta, you just have a minute to close down. If you can sum it up.
Sorry, I sorry, sort of time here. Yeah, so this is the provenance is a big thing where you go where you can highlight a lot of different you can pick up a lot of data from different aspects of the value chain and then highlight it to the end customers. And then talking about the technological interventions that are going into farming that we as a Bosch have been able to do it is that we have been able to use satellite solutions when it comes to the growing part of the food. We have been able to use the audio analytics example that I gave you, the creating a digital twin of the animal or cow animal as a different asset, and then using IoT in the movement of the milk so that you are able to monitor the movement of the milk as well as monitor the temperature around it and highlight the freshness, as well as these dynamic QR codes and the packaging on the product where it can be protected against tampering and further highlight the provenance. Overall, if you see, it's about reducing your carbon footprint for the organizations, then animal and farmer well-being, and then the sustainability communication. And yes, that's about it. I'm free to take questions over here. Just to highlight, just on the ending note, IoT, AI, and blockchain is creating a wave into, especially in the food segment, where food safety and security is taking the mainstream. And hopefully you will see much more cases that are emerging in India as well as in abroad, and True Food Plus taking the mainstream very soon. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions here.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Gupta. I think we will come back to you for the questions after Mr. Anuj Bihani presents his perspective. So thank you. And I think there's one question that's come. If a raw material is procured from traders instead of farms, how will this blockchain tracks the farm, etc.? So maybe Mr. Gupta, could you come in here? I mean, because there's a broken supply chain, and in a broken supply chain model, how do you track and trace? Is the question.
Right. Yeah. That's a very valid question. So traceability of the products flow basically at three levels. So one is the physical traceability of the products, where I was talking about putting a QR code on a product. And as the product is changing hands across the supply chain, you are able to get from point A to point B to point C. Similarly, the second level of traceability that happens, it happens at the documentation level. So if a particular trader is procuring from a farmer, say X, and that farmer X farm certificate X quantity is being provided to a particular trader, blockchain as a technology is able to establish that electronic collaboration between the farmer, between the trader, and to a particular retailer. So in this particular scenario, what would happen is on a True Food Plus app, for example, the farmer would provide a certification saying that I am selling X amount of quantities to a particular trader, and then the trader is able to provide those certifications to the retailer. That thereby, if you get a complete holistic view of the supply chain, you are able to see that if, for example, in the yogurt that I have created, the cocoa beans, the chocolate flavor of the cocoa beans is coming from a particular part in where it is being exported by a particular trader, or the oil that I am procuring is coming from one part of the Malaysia or wherever. That's why the physical traceability, when clubbed with the documentation traceability, is able to create a transparency into the system. And that's how the broken supply chains are being managed currently.
Okay, thank you. Then there's a question again to you, Mr. Gupta. How can technologies such as blockchain make quality food cheaper to all?
See, this in the new world, what's going to happen is, especially post COVID, what we have is the supply chains were completely global. So what we saw, this comes from example from one of the big retailers coming out of France. It became sort of impossible to import vegetables from Italy, from the Spain during this COVID times. And that called for rapid localization and the procurement of food from your local suppliers itself. Now, once we talk about providing equal, opportunities to all the farmers, be it good quality or a bad quality, but the power of local has been understood in this COVID situation. What blockchain will is gonna do is bring, the blockchain. For this we need to understand the power of blockchain altogether. The power of blockchain as a technology is that the data that we produce as the owner of the data are able to get remunerated for that data. For example, if I put a photo on Facebook and I put it over a blockchain based platform, the Facebook has to pay me. The power of the data generator, the data needs to get to be paid back. So if a farmer is putting ethical practice into his farm for growing a truly ethical and sustainable organic product, the farmer gets remunerated for its data. And that is where the data marketplace kinds of concepts come in. And then it creates a transparency into the system where our data is my data and it is my privilege to, giving it to large organizations and then earning from it. So that way it creates that transparent ecosystem where everyone gets benefited.
Yeah. Good. Then